They say when the rain won't stop, the ancestors are mourning something. But what happens when they mourn you before you've even died? In the hills of southeastern Congo, there is a village with no name on the map. Locals refer to it only by a word that means the place that forgets. Travelers who pass through recall the endless rain, the way time seems to pause, how even the birds fall silent after dusk. There are no photographs of this village, no records in colonial archives, only a handful of oral accounts, spoken by elders whose eyes avoid yours when they speak. It's always raining in these stories, and always someone goes missing. The elders don't tell the tale during daylight. They wait for the storm, for the winds to rattle the shutters, for the fire to burn low. And then, in a voice just above a whisper, they begin. This is one of those stories. The one they say you should never repeat aloud, especially when it rains. A story about a boy who was born on the wrong day, during a season that never came, to a mother who should not have been able to bear children. He was named Mbui after the moon, but the moon did not rise the night he was born. Instead, the rain began. It has not stopped since. People still wonder if he was ever really a child, or something else entirely, something brought here, or left behind. Tonight, as you close your eyes and the rain presses gently against your window, listen closely, not just to this story, but to what lies between the words. Because in the place that forgets, even silence remembers. Mbui's mother, Awa, lived alone at the edge of the forest. People said she was once a midwife, before her womb was declared dead by the village diviner. That was 15 seasons before the night she gave birth. There was no ceremony to welcome Mbui, no naming song, no visit from the griot, only the rain and the way the goats stopped bleeding just before dawn. The elders sent word to the priestess of the western hill, a woman named Mbok. She came wrapped in cloth the color of ash, with eyes that never blinked. She took one look at the newborn and turned away. She didn't speak. She simply dropped a gourd of red palm oil at the doorstep and left. In this village, certain signs are not explained aloud. They are understood. The villagers began to avoid Awa's hut. Markets fell quiet when she passed. Children were told never to look directly into Mbui's eyes. The boy grew but never cried. Not once. Even when he fell from the tall baobab tree and split his chin open on a stone, he stood, bloodied and silent. The scar remained. And still he never cried. At age 7, Mbui began walking into the forest alone. Every evening, just before the sun dipped behind Mount Londo, where no one dared hunt after dusk, he would vanish into the trees. When Awa was asked where he went, she would only say, "He follows the drums. I cannot hear them, but he does." No one else heard them either. But a few swore they saw strange shapes moving at the edge of the trees when the boy returned. Dark figures with arms too long and necks that turned slowly, like they were listening for something. Then came the drought. 3 months with no harvest. The river turned black. Fishermen brought up nets tangled with bones. Not animal bones. Human. With carvings etched into them. Old markings, ones not used in this region for centuries. That was when the dreams began. It started with the children, waking in the middle of the night, screaming, pointing to the corners of their huts, saying someone was watching them from the thatch. Someone with no face, just holes where eyes should be. A child from the northern side of the village walked into the forest one morning. They found her clothes folded neatly beneath the twisted fig tree where the lightning once struck. Her footprints stopped beside them. Nothing more. That night, Mbui returned home soaked, his eyes wide, a small object clutched in his hand. A tooth. Old, yellowed, and carved with a spiral too perfect for any human tool. When Awa tried to take it from him, he spoke for the first time in days. He said, "It belongs to them. If I lose it, they'll come inside." From that night on, no one knocked at Awa's door again. It began with the goats. One morning they were gone. Every single one. No signs of struggle. No prints in the mud. Just the posts of the pen, still upright, and the gate unlatched, swinging slowly in the mist. Later that week, the chief's rooster began crowing at night. At first, people thought it was the moon confusing the bird. But the moon hadn't shone in weeks. The sky remained a blank slate of cloud and rain. And the rooster crowed only once each night. Always at the same time, 3 breaths after the first thunder. By the second week, whispers began to thread through the rain. Not loud. Never clear. Just faint phrases drifting past the ear, too soft to understand, too close to ignore. Some said they were in Kikongo. Others heard them in languages no one had spoken since the time of the stone drums. Elder Nkosi, who had not spoken in years, woke one night screaming. Said he saw his wife, long dead, standing at the foot of his sleeping mat. Her eyes were sewn shut with vine. That morning he wandered into the river. When they pulled him from the current, he was still alive, but the whites of his eyes had turned gray, like they'd been watching the rain too long. In the heart of this quiet unraveling stood Mbui. No longer a child, not quite a man. 14, maybe 15. He had grown tall and thin, his skin dark and smooth like oiled bark. He didn't walk, he glided, always barefoot even in the flooded soil. People said he never blinked, that his eyes were too old for his face, that he could stand for hours under the baobab near the well, unmoving, his gaze fixed on the forest line. The elders whispered that his presence was thinning the village, that the boundary between the world of the living and the things outside had grown too fragile. A warning was given. The priestess Mbok returned. She brought kola nuts tied in red cord. She placed them on the thresholds of the huts, one by one. When she reached Awa's, she did not knock. She simply scattered ashes in a circle around the doorway and turned her back. That night, the rain grew heavier. It did not pour, it pressed, as though the sky itself wanted to smother the ground. Children began sleepwalking, always in the same direction, toward the forest. One mother woke to find her son standing at the edge of the maize field, barefoot, in the rain, whispering something to the wind. When she called to him, he didn't move. When she touched his shoulder, he collapsed. The next morning, he could not speak. Not from fear, from absence. Like his voice had been carried off in the night and replaced with silence. Mbui began marking things. At first just stones, circles carved in the mud, then trees, then the walls of his mother's hut. Symbols no one recognized, patterns that hurt to look at. The diviner said they were warnings, or maybe maps, or maybe prayers. She wasn't sure. Her hands trembled as she tried to erase one, and her fingernails fell out the next day. They were small, childlike, but wrong. The toes were too long, the arch inverted. They appeared in pairs outside huts, even when no one had visited, always facing the door. Every morning someone swept them away. Every night they returned. Then Ao went missing. Ao was a young hunter, brave, disrespectful. He said Mbui was just a boy, that people were losing themselves to fear, that he would watch the forest himself and prove there was nothing there. He was last seen walking into the treeline with a spear and a lantern. By dawn, the lantern was found upright in the grass, still warm. The spear lay beside it, but no blood, no sign of Ao. His brother said he dreamt of him that night. Said Ao was standing in the river, up to his neck, whispering with his mouth open, but no sound coming out. The village began to shrink, not in size, in sound, in warmth. The fires burned lower. The drums stopped. Even the laughter of children became rare, like a memory fading in daylight. No one went out after dark, not even the dogs. They whimpered at their thresholds, eyes on the trees, refusing to move. Mbui never stopped walking. Every night, into the forest, deeper, longer. And each time he returned, he brought something with him. A woven charm made of moss, a bone shaped like a spindle, a strand of hair longer than anyone's in the village, and once, a mask. It was carved from termite-eaten wood, the face expressionless, but the mouth was stitched shut with metal wire. He placed it above his sleeping mat. That night, the wind screamed through the village. No one slept. Awa's sister Yene had not spoken to her in years. She had left the village after the birth, swearing never to return. She arrived in silence. No drums, no greetings. Just the sound of her sandals in the mud and the weight of a calabash tied with black ropes swinging at her side. Her face was hollowed by travel. Her eyes sunk like they had seen too many things in too short a life. She didn't speak until she reached the fire pit in front of Awa's hut. There, in full view of the villagers who still dared to watch, she threw the calabash into the flames. It burst open, not with fire but with flies. Awa didn't flinch. She simply turned and walked back into her home. That night, Yene told the truth. The curse had not begun with Mbui, nor with Awa. It was older, buried beneath generations of silence and ceremony. She said their grandfather, Awa and Yene's grandfather, was a chief once. Proud, fierce. But when the drought came, he made a deal. He entered the sacred grove on the night of the black moon, alone. When he returned, he brought rain and a strange woman. Her skin was pale like river clay. Her hair, bound in beads no one recognized. She never spoke. She never aged. She lived in a hut made of reeds and watched the village with eyes too large for her face. The rain stayed. So did she. But the babies born that year were all wrong. Some without eyes, others without tongues. Some died before naming, others walked too soon. The chief hid this. He buried the malformed, lied about the deaths. The rains fed the crops and the people turned blind to the whispers. Then one night the woman vanished. The rain stopped, and the children began dying. The chief was found days later, hanging from a branch inside the grove, carved with markings no one could decipher. They said he had angered something that was never meant to be summoned, and that it had marked his bloodline forever. Awa had never spoken of this, not once, but Yena swore it was true, and when the villagers heard it, many began to weep, not out of disbelief, but recognition, because the markings that had once scarred the stillborns were now appearing on the walls, on the trees, on the backs of the children who walked in their sleep. That same night, Awa disappeared. Her hut was still intact, the fire was still warm, but her body was nowhere. Only her wrap, folded neatly beside Mbuyi's mat, and a bowl of black water, untouched. Mbuyi did not speak for 3 days. When he finally opened his mouth, it was to tell the village what he had seen. She did not vanish, he said. She was taken back. The debt is still owed. He claimed he knew the name of the being that had come for her, that it had whispered to him through the trees since he was a child, that it had chosen him, not as a servant, but as a vessel. Mbok, the priestess, confirmed what everyone feared. A ritual had been started a generation ago and never finished. The offering, Awa's grandfather's own blood, had been withheld. The deal broken. And now it came not just for blood, but for memory. It would erase the village, erase its name, its songs, its trees, its bones, its stories. Every word, every mark, every grave. Unless the ritual was completed, fully, properly, with the correct sacrifice. Mbuyi stood before the elders that evening, eyes clear, voice calm. He told them he would finish it. He knew the chance, the path, the place. They asked how he knew. He said, because the drums have taught me. Every night, in my sleep, in the rain. They asked what sacrifice was needed. He looked at them, silent, then said one word, all. At first, no one followed him. Mbuyi left at dawn. No food, no blanket, just a carved gourd hung at his side and the same woven wrap he always wore, tattered, damp, and marked in symbols only he seemed to understand. The forest did not welcome him. The branches bent inward. The air thickened. The light shifted. By the time the elders gathered the courage to send 3 men after him, the trees had already changed. The path was not the same. It twisted, doubled back, moved. They say the forest past the red baobab is old. Too old, that even the ancestors speak of it in whispers. It was once a shrine, a home to the Kunu, the spirits who walk without feet and speak without mouths. Their temple was not built by hands. It was grown. Trees woven together, hollowed from the inside. Roots that fed on silence. Bark that bled when touched. Mbuyi walked alone beneath its canopy. The rain didn't reach this part of the forest. Instead, it hovered, held in the air like breath waiting to be exhaled. On the 3rd day, he found the cave. They call it Nananzadi, the mouth of the drowned god. It was not on any map. No elder had seen it. But every child in the village had dreamt of it at least once. A smooth hollow, black as coal, set beneath a twisted hill of bones. Animal bones. Human bones. Bones arranged into spirals with no beginning and no end. Inside, the light bent. The echoes whispered back things he had not said. There he met the first spirit. It took the form of a girl, no older than Mbuyi. Her eyes were missing. Her skin flickered like torchlight. She offered him a bowl. Inside, water and ash. He drank. She asked him if he remembered his true name. He did not. She smiled. Then the way is open, she said, and she vanished. He walked for what felt like days. The cave stretched downward. No end. Only roots above, bones below. He passed altars made of tusks, statues with goat eyes and human teeth, drums that beat without hands. He heard singing, not with ears, but from inside his skull. Voices of the ancestors, some gentle, some angry, some sobbing. They spoke in riddles. The child is not the debt. The child is the door. The land remembers. The blood deceives. The bones record. Do not step in the fourth shadow. It watches. At the end of the passage he found the altar. It was simple. A stone cracked in two. A tree root growing through it like a vein. Around it, masked. Hundreds. None with eyes. Above it, carvings that moved when not watched. And before it, the final guardian. It was not a man, nor beast, nor spirit. It was all of them. Its body shifted like shadow. Its breath was warm like storm wind. Its face wore his mother's features, then his grandfather's, then none at all. It said he had come too late, that the ritual had rotted, that the village was already forgotten in the mouths of the ancestors, that all who remained were echoes. But it offered him a choice, to return and let the forgetting finish, or to complete the ritual, not with fire, not with knife, but with memory, to take into himself every story, every song, every sin ever buried, to become the village, to be its voice, its name, its wound. He said yes. The creature wept, then opened its chest. Inside he saw his own face, sleeping. He reached out, touched it, and was swallowed. The villagers gathered without knowing why. They said their feet moved before their minds did, that their eyes burned as if smoke had crept through the trees. By the time they reached the central clearing, the fire pit had lit itself. No one had seen Bui return, but he was there, standing barefoot in the rain, soaked to the bone, and humming a song no one remembered teaching him. His eyes were different. Some said they were deeper than before. Others said they weren't his. He did not speak at first. He simply looked at each villager, one by one, as if seeing not them, but their ancestors inside them. Then he opened his mouth, and the story poured out. The land remembers. The drums have names. The stones, faces. The trees, blood. You were not cursed. You were silenced. You forgot. And the land, it never forgives forgetting. Then he stepped into the fire. The flames did not burn him. They rose around him like arms. The spirits had given him a choice, to seal the past away, or to return it. If he chose to bury it, the village would remain, but empty, soulless, safe. If he chose to return it, the truth would come back too. Every death, every lie, every forgotten scream. He chose truth. From the fire a shape rose. Not beast, not God, but grief. A face with many eyes, a mouth that echoed generations of pain, arms made of names lost to time. It demanded a price, not of blood, but of confession. Speak the name, it said. Speak the sin. And Bui did. He spoke his grandfather's name, and what he had done. He named the pact. He described the woman of clay. He named the children buried without drums, the river that ran dry, the grove that cried in sleep. He named his own mother's silence, and his own voice that had once echoed her lies. When he finished, the entity smiled. It had no lips, but the fire bent toward him and the earth stopped shaking. Then it asked the final question. Will you carry it? Bui closed his eyes. He said yes. The fire collapsed. The sky cleared. And Bui was gone. They found his wrap folded neatly on the stone. Beside it, a bowl of clear water. The same bowl that had once been left outside Awa's hut. From then on, the village changed. The rains returned, but softer, like morning turned to forgiveness. The trees grew, but bore twisted fruit as if the past was still inside them. Children born after that night dreamed only in black and white, and no one ever spoke his name again. But if you walk through that forest, just before the rain, and place your ear to the hollow baobab tree, you'll hear him, not screaming, not crying, telling the story, over and over, so that the forgetting never happens again. The curse didn't end the way they expected. There was no great celebration, no songs of triumph, no feast, only silence, the kind that settles after something ancient has been fed. The village didn't fall apart, but it didn't smile the same way either. The children who once danced beneath the moon now paused when the rain came. Elders stopped speaking in riddles and began using full names again, as if hoping names might anchor souls. No one rebuilt the old shrine. They simply left it, overgrown and humming. And yet, something shifted. No more people vanished in the night. The fever that took the children stopped. The birds returned. So did the laughter, though quieter now, like a drum played with open palms. Life resumed, but it did so with caution. Mbuyi was never seen again. But the goats no longer ran when the wind howled. And in the quiet of night, by the third gourd moon, someone would always leave a bowl of water by the fire, just in case the story needed telling again. In the end, the curse wasn't lifted. It was honored, because the real curse was forgetting. For generations they had buried the truth, covered it with proverbs, smiled over the graves. But memory is alive. It does not stay buried. Mbuyi gave himself not to destroy the darkness, but to remind them it was there. That greed has echoes. That silence has teeth. That when the ancestors call, you must answer with more than words. So they remembered, and they taught their children to listen, not just to the elders, but to the rain, to the trees, to the hollow spaces where voices hide, because the rain that falls without end is not a curse. It is a reminder of all that still waits to be spoken. Some say the spirit only wanted a confession. Others believe it longed to be remembered, to feel the warmth of a name spoken aloud. But maybe, just maybe, what it truly wanted was to be listened to. What do you think the spirit truly wanted? Tell me in the comments below. If you made it this far, you're part of the memory now. Like, share, or whisper this tale to someone you trust. And when it rains tonight, don't close your window too fast. Some stories like to come in on the breeze. Next time, we tell of the night the moon disappeared, and no one was allowed to sleep.